In this video we talk about Castell, a game with a very unusual theme. A theme in fact that I learned about from the game itself. I never heard of Catalan human towers before, but it turns out that, unless the game is about, that's like a big hoax, that there is a tradition of piling people up in attractive and exciting human towers, and you have teams that go around the region participating to festivals, showing off their skills and having layers and layers of people upon people, possibly without hurting themselves too much. In this game you play the role of a team manager, the manager of a team of Castellers. You travel around the region recruiting Castellers that are identified by color, size of the token, and numbers. You will collect the Castellers, put together a team, and then you will use your Castellers to create human towers in local performances, meeting the requirements of the people in that area, and that will score you points. Participating to festivals. There's going to be a festival at the end of most turns, and actually 2 festivals at the end of many turns, and that also scores you points. And also, you're trying to become famous in as many regions as possible, because that increases your popularity, which in game terms means, I think you guessed it, more points for you. Now, the basic rule about making pyramids, I'm gonna teach you the basic idea, the legal way, before I teach you how to break that rule. And breaking the rules is particularly important in this game. You will need to acquire resources that will allow you to put together more spectacular pyramids than the basic idea revolves around. Basically, you need to put together pyramids, and of course a layer needs to be smaller than the layer underneath. Also, each layer needs to have people all of the same type, 10, 10, 10, 9, 9, 9, 7. Also, the number must decrease, so 9 over 10, 7 over 9, 2 over 7, but not vice versa. So these are, and did I mention this? And the size of a layer cannot be more than 3. Cannot be more than 3 people. So no more than 3, same kind, smaller and smaller, and diminishing numbers. And then you will acquire skills that will allow you, again, to break those rules. Here you have a board where you will place tokens that record your success. When you win a trophy, you place it in the area representing the region where you gain the trophy, so that you can score that at the end of the game. Also, here you have a track where you will place these tokens that represent your skills. And again, that will allow you to break rules, and depending on your level of skills, you'll be able to apply that rule-breaking advantage to multiple layers. For example, this indicates my ability, my balance of having layers of the same length or the same size as the one underneath. Usually the layer above, the tier above, needs to be smaller. With this, I could have, so again, 3 on top of 3. If my skill, which starts at 0, is at 1 in this department here, then there is 1 layer that I can have, which is the same size as the one before. If the level is 2, then 2 layers, 3 layers, 4 layers that break that rule. Strength, it can be the same size as the one underneath. Base, then for each level of base I can have a level that does not have to worry, and I don't have to worry about the size. It can be of any size as long as I'm not breaking other rules without being allowed by special skills. Mixing, I can mix and match different types of Castellers in the same line as long as they still have the same size. So for example, 10 and 9 go together, that is allowed, and so do 8 and 7, 6 and 5. Basically, starting from 10 and 9, each pair of adjacent numbers can go together if you have the mixed skill, and again, the number of layers in which you can do that depends entirely on that. Width for for each level of width that you have, you'll be able to increase by 1 the width of all layers of your tower. Now, at the beginning, it's kind of like unclear what is the difference between the two, but there are sometimes pyramids that you want to build that have one level, which is very large. Then with this one, a single level of base skill will allow you to do that, as opposed to this one, it will take you many levels to be able to do so. As opposed to, say, there is a pyramid, just like this one, that requires 4 on each level, then a single level of width allows me to do so, but it would take me multiple levels, of base. Basically, the idea is that width applies vertically and base applies horizontally. It sounds a little confusing, and it is, at least it was for me. So that shows you how with different things we can have more spectacular pyramids. Suppose that I have a base, a level, a base of 1, and also I have some mix, and now I can mix and match 9 and 10, and I don't have to worry about the limit of 3, because I have base and mixing. And then actually, look at that, I decide that then I want to place here another line of people, and maybe, and just because I don't have other people available here. Oh, look at that, actually I also have some strength. How convenient is that? So that allows me to place people of size 9, type 9, on top of the previous ones, which is again 9 over 9. Usually that would be not allowed. But I have a lot of mixes, so I can apply that to 3 layers. In this case, I'm applying it to 2, but it's the same width. Oh, luckily enough, I have balance. And then I put these 2 people here on top just for fun. So you can create different things, but you have to take a lot of things into account. You have to look pretty much at what people are asking for. When you are trying to score local performances, you need to either form a pyramid that is exactly the same shape, same number of castellers and distribution, or with certain skills. So certain things are based on skills, for example, and here you have a number of victory points that the tile is worth it. When you're going for a skill tile, you need that number of layers at least, and you need to be able to have those 2 skills, to produce those 2 skills. Basically, these tiles, which you will recombine in each game, represent what people in that region want to see. People in Tarragona go bananas when they see this kind of tower here. People in Villanova don't sleep at night with excitement when they see the type of tower. So this is what the people demand. As opposed to the festivals, so we'll talk more in detail. These tiles are shuffled randomly, and that means that the order of the festivals will change each game, and then you randomly place these tokens underneath, and that represents the type of people that they want to see at that festival. People in Vals on turn 5 can't wait. They're shivering with anticipation at the idea of seeing people number 3 and number 8 in your pyramid. So the requirements of what you need to produce each game changes dramatically. Also, just to have a general look at the board, this is the area where you will move your team token. This team token is one of the most adorable things I've seen in gaming ever. You will move the token from region to region. You can move it across these lines here or across a border. The regions connected by a line or by a border count as adjacent. Each region has an area where you will place castellers. You'll be able to recruit them. And again, you go around, recruit them, and then you'll try to score points at local performances and festivals. Here we have the skill wheel. Really interesting. And again, as you can see, so many things are variable. You shuffle these tiles at the beginning of the game, and then you place them there randomly. So that means that even the configuration of the skill wheel changes from game to game. And that indicates which skill is available each turn in a certain region. For example, in Vals, this turn I can acquire width. In Mataró, I can acquire base. In Tarragona, I can acquire mix. And then in any region that I am, I can acquire balance. This disc incidentally can also be flipped. It's double-sided. There is a side that says no region, so actually that indicates a skill that every turn is not available. And each turn, this is also moved by one click, so you also have to take into account where skills will be available next turn. So a lot of things to think about. When you take all this into consideration, you're thinking, well, you haven't told me a thing about turn structure. Again, this is really figuring out what everything is the main idea. As for turn structure, it's very simple. Each player will take their player's turn each turn, and each turn you can perform 4 actions. You can perform them in any order, but you can only perform each action once. Your action can be to move. Bloop, done. You can recruit, in which case you take up to 2 Castellers from the ones that are available there. These spaces are replenished once every other turn, not every turn, so every other turn there may be a little bit of scarcity. And again, that means it's important to try to see what other players are trying to do so you don't find yourself stuck in the middle of the desert with no one to recruit. You can choose to train, in which case you acquire a level of a skill that is available in your current region. For example, I'm in Villafranca, and this turn in Villafranca, they teach base. They teach base, and so I simply gain a level of base, which I record here on next to my player aid. I can also take a special action. There is a limited number of special actions that you can have. You receive tokens at the beginning of the game. You have to spend 1 each time you perform a special action. You place it on the display indicating the region in which you're taking it, so there may be a little bit of a pile there. Special actions can be, I can move an extra area, or I can recruit an extra person, or I can put on a local performance, in which case I need to demonstrate that I'm able to create a tower of the type that is desired, that is requested in that region. For example, in Tarragona, if I want to put together a local performance, I need to be able to produce that tower or that tower. If I'm able to do so, if I can demonstrate that I can do it, I won't say by not breaking the rules, but well, I guess by using by using skills that break the basic rules. So if I'm able to demonstrate that I can produce that tower, then I collect the tile. I also collect the tokens that have been placed there, and I'll score these things at the end of the game. This is really the basic idea. Again, a lot of things around turn structure, but pretty much the structure is move and or recruit and or train and or perform a special action, which can be extra recruit, extra move, or collect one of these tiles if you can. Starting from turn 3, at the end of each turn, there will also be a festival. To participate in a festival, you need to be in the right region. So, for example, if this is turn 5, there'll be a festival in Villanova and in Vals. I am in Tarragona, as you may remember. Too bad for me. But no, wait, rewind in time. No, I decided to go in Vals, so I'll be able to participate to this festival. Or will I? To participate to a festival, you need to be in the area indicated by the tile in the turn in which the festival occurs, and you need to be able to produce a tower which is at least 4 layers high and contains the requirements for that festival. So this turn, if it's turn 5 in Vals, so they want to see 3 and 8. And suppose they do have them, then I'm able to participate. Or, let's cheat a little bit. Yes, I am in Vals, and they're looking for towers containing 10 and 6. See, I didn't even have to change much. It happened just so very organically. So look at that. They are looking for 10 and 6, which I just so happen to have. Now I need to be able to put together a tower which is at least 4 layers high and contains 10 and 6. Incidentally, the more of the required type I'm able to put on my tower, the better. And I have base, so I can just go all insane with a base of 10. Then again, I need to be at least 4 layers high, so I do 9, I do 7, and I do 6, ta-da, and maybe even have other people that allow me to do other stuff. For example, if I'm gonna to pile up individual people here, I need balance. I need balance, which again, remember, is 1 layer, same size as the other. Then, when you're able to do so, at a festival, you score points based on the number of layers that you'll be able to put together and the number of tiles of the required type. You then score your tower, or do you? During the game, you only score your highest tower. So during the game, there will be a scoring marker there on the scoring track, but you only move it if you are improving on your best tower. So last turn I had a tower of 11, this turn I have a tower of 9, my marker doesn't move, but next turn I put together at a festival a tower that is worth 16, then I move it. So during the game you only record the value of your best tower. It is at the end of the game, when people are collecting points, that you add the points from other sources. What are the other sources? What happens at the end of the game when you are collecting points? Oh, actually, another thing that is pretty important, we're talking about the festivals, but these also are points. You also collect the festivals. If multiple people are participating, then you place then tokens for first, second, and third place are issues, and the number of stars that you see there is the number of victory points. So finally we get to the point at the end of the game of collecting and counting all the points. You will have your best tower score that has already been considered there. Then you will have things on your board here. The trophies that you collected go here, and the variety of regions in which you have a presence will give you points. If you were able to be cool in 5 regions, then you score 7 victory points, for example. Earn prizes, again, the points on the individual prizes that you collect. Size tokens, you score 2 victory points for each unique size tokens that you have, and then 1 victory point for each duplicate size token. Then you have points that come from the local performances, and that should be all. You collect points from all of these things, and at that point the player with the highest total is the winner of the game. Castell, I like this game, I really like it. Gameplay is absolutely fascinating, but I don't think it is for everybody. Definitely it is for the thinking player. This is not a complicated game in terms of rules, although, as you've seen from the fact that I talked for over 50 minutes about gameplay, there are several concepts that you have to grasp, but they're not particularly difficult. So the game in terms of rules and concepts is not complicated, but gameplay is definitely complex. So much information that you have to analyze regarding what is available on the board for this turn and what will be there next turn. Think about this. In a turn, you can move from one region to another standard. So there are 2 regions in which you can recruit or perform a special action. That would be a local performance, or train for a skill. You add then instead of participating to a local performance that costs a special action token, you spend an action token for the extra movement. Now basically you will be in 3 regions, which covers most of the board, and so for each of these regions you have to take into account what are the castells that are available and the skills that are available. On top of that, of course, you want to be either in the same region or adjacent to a region that next turn will have a skill that is desirable. What skills are most desirable to you? Oh yes, you have to take into account what people want to see in the local performances. As for the festivals, as long as you are able to put together a tall tower and have the right combination of people, then we'll be fine. And of course that also means I'm trying to take into account what other people are collecting, so what are the castellers that are most likely to still be there next round. There is a lot to think about, as you are pretty much switching constantly from the skill wheel, the map, the local performances, and then you go back and you do it again. At the very least, twice, again, for the region that you're in, and another possible one that you're considering. But since you're considering, probably we're going to have a look at what other things are available. Add the possible next turn. That is a lot to think about. It is a puzzle inside a riddle, inside an enigma, on top of a tower of very motivated people that are risking, I believe, serious injury going all the way up there. So definitely for the thinking player, you're gonna get a little bit of a brain burn at the end. Not as terrible as, say, Mage Knight or other games that are really hardcore, but definitely there is something to think about. If you like that puzzle element, if you like games that are very lean on luck, I mean, pretty much the only luck here is in the order in which the Castellers come out of the big bag when you refill the board, and of course you cannot control what the players are taking, so there is that element that is out of control, which is functionally like luck, although technically it is not. But other than that, it is a lot about planning, and it is a lot about synchronizing things, or I should say timing things up. And precisely because of all the moving parts and all of the variables that are technically there, but there's just so much to consider that you may miss an optimal way of doing things, that then when things do go well, when you are indeed managing to time things correctly, and then you go to a place, you recruit the right people, and then you have an awesome performance and you score at the festival, that moment in which you're finally able to line things up when the stars are right, that is going to be particularly rewarding. It is a game that is challenging to play effectively, very easy to play just executing moves that are legal. Incredibly challenging to play effectively, but also very rewarding when you can do so. And those moments, endorphins kick in, they make it worth to go through the other 1, 2, 3 turns in which, like, wow, how come everybody is like kicking butt and I'm just going around without being able to do much. But then again, you have the endorphin moment later, and so things even themselves out. I like, again, gameplay, challenging, analytical gameplay that may verge into the cerebral if you're not in the right spirit. You need to be able to enjoy the intellectual challenge without obsessing too much about it. And so the danger here that looms on the horizon is, of course, analysis paralysis. Encourage players to think about their turns a little bit ahead, and that probably they will already be doing it, because you don't just go to a region and see if you're able to put together local performers. You are planning your skills in advance. But while this in most games reduces analysis paralysis, sometimes actually here may cause it, precisely because I'm taking into account so many things and so many possible scenarios, and then you get the Castell that I needed, so I had to start over. So advising people to think about their turn ahead only goes so far to prevent analysis paralysis. It really is a matter here of maybe not playing a 4-player if you're afraid of that, and also playing with the right people, But if you're able to avoid that, then you definitely have a very interesting challenge here. Now, the game looks great. I think the graphic, the art is great. I'm so happy that I learned about this new theme, this new element of European culture I didn't know about. I have a couple of minor quibbles about the production, and that probably I would not even mention if the game wasn't so engaging, engrossing, and absorbing. Precisely because the game invites me to take everything into account, to analyze and to really concentrate on what I'm doing. Then there are a couple of moments in which the production prevents me from doing so in an optimal way, in which I get like distracted because I'm worrying about things that I don't think I should be worrying about. For example, the regions are coded by color. Tarragona is of a certain color on the skill wheel, on the region itself, and then on the area on the side for the local performances. But those colors don't exactly match. They're different hues, they're different nuances of a range of colors. Valse, for example, is like dark red in one iteration, sort of like orange in another, and light orange in another one. And you know, one is like purple, one is like, I don't know, lilac, one is pink. They are when it comes to other regions, they're just regions that are also very close to one another. And it may be a minor thing. Yes, it would be if I just looked at everything once. But since I am like cycling, okay, this combination is okay, but is another combination of region skills this turn and next turn that can be more profitable. And the fact that sometimes I'm interacting, wait a second, I'm looking at Tarragona. Oh gosh, I've been thinking for a couple of seconds, but you know, worst case scenario, minutes about, oh, Terranova, not Tarragona, darn it. As for the orders in which the regions are in the local performance, was there any reason not to put them in alphabetical order? Because also most players outside of that area may not know exactly where Mataró is or where Barcelona is. And frankly, even if you know it and you're sitting on the other side of the table, you don't know where in that list which one is which. And again, the color connection is not always as obvious. Sometimes I watch videos in which players review video games and they say, oh, that second of frame freeze, that second really was enough to pull me out of the magic of immersion. That second here in which I'm trying to figure out which skill will be in Vals and which region is Vals and which region is Mataró is enough to kind of like lower a little bit my enjoyment of the game. Another minor thing that could have been easily corrected, although I guess would have made the game more expensive, is the tiles for local performances. So especially the bottom, the base of these performances, of the local performances, the diagram very often have a lot of those little rectangles representing castellers. I'm sitting across the table. Do they require 6 or 7 there? Let me pick it up and take a look. And then I'm back to reconsidering all the other things that I have to worry about. So, a lot to think about. Production has some minor elements. In a certain sense, I'm telling you, I worry about these things. I'm slightly annoyed about these things because gameplay is otherwise so interesting. If this was just a light filler, who cares if I'm chatting with you and not worrying about a thing, if something is light orange or dark orange, who cares? But here, precisely because I enjoyed gameplay so much, I find it really gets me into that sense of like flow, that my skills are all projected into the game, and I really am enjoying the process of solving these problems or finding a possible way of solving them. I am getting a kick when I finally am able to do something that really is more than the sum of the parts and where all of the analysis and thinking pays off, precisely because this element is so fun. Then those minor things feel a little more than minor. In general, however, Castell is a very fine game. No, not for everybody. Definitely for committed players, for players that enjoy the kind of intellectual challenge. But for that kind of player, Castell is definitely a very, very fine option.